The Last of Us Season 2 dares to ask the question, what if we made the game, but worse? Welcome back to Movies Good, Internet Bad. I'm Corey, that's Shane. And in this episode, we are going to be reacting to the finale of Season 2, as well as the entire season as a whole. So make sure to stick all the way through to the end to hear our thoughts about the entirety of Season 2. Shane, I'm going to pass the mic to you because this is one of your favorite games of all time, and I feel like you may or may not have thoughts.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how non-game viewers or game players react to this
Yeah.
finale and season as a whole, because I feel like as a game player, it's so much worse. Just it and it's weird because the game was a very difficult structure to adapt. We
Yes. Yeah.
saw that structure revealed in this finale. Spoiler alert.
Mhm. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
flash
spoilers from here on
back.
out.
They
Sorry.
flash back to Abby's perspective. In the game, this happens the same way,
Mhm.
where you play through all of Ellie's perspective, and then you flash all the way back and you play through all of Abby's perspective.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment in the game where everyone was
Mhm.
very confused. Uh, but the thing that worked in the game is that a lot of ambiguity was still there. You didn't quite know why some people were doing the things that they were doing.
Mhm.
There were moments that were revealed to you in Ellie's perspective that you didn't fully understand that were then explained later. And it felt like when going to the TV show, they were like, I don't know if the audience is going to fully understand this.
Mhm.
So rather than change the structure and put it in more of a cross-cutting, which is what I thought they were going to do, and what
Sure.
they started the season doing, they
Mhm.
started with Abby's perspective, and I thought, okay, we're going to get both at the same time.
Right.
And had
Yeah,
they
yeah,
done
yeah.
that, I think it would have worked a little bit better. But instead, they adapted it the exact same way as the game, but
Mhm.
then they front ran all the reveals. They're like,
Yeah.
well, we don't want the viewers to wait 2 years to get this information revealed to them. So
Right.
we're going to tell them in this season, even though it diminishes the impact of that reveal. And it does this so many times.
Mhm.
Even in this finale, we get the Seraphite Island. We get all of that stuff that
Mhm.
is a reveal in the second half of the narrative that we'll see in season 3. But
Maybe.
they're just telling us ahead of time what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
I don't think that works at all.
Yeah, and we said, in several of these reviews that we've done weekly that it feels like they're making the show in fear of the audience,
Hmm.
partially due to the backlash that the game received, right? It's almost kind of like a do-over, but the safe version, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, I can say safely, at least in my household, I played the games. My lady has not. She enjoyed this season much more than I did. And I know it's a small sample size, but still, I do wonder with stuff like this if it does impact your viewing experience if you've participated in the source material. I had a conversation with a buddy the other day who he just watched Mickey 17, the Bong Joon Ho movie. He had read the book beforehand and he was like, dude, I hated it.
Hmm.
It had the premise and then it completely veered left from everything the book did. And I was like, huh, that didn't bother me because I didn't read the book. Like I had my own thoughts about that movie, but
Yeah.
my eyes were fresh to it. And I feel like with this show, it almost feels like they were creating it for sets of fresh eyes and maybe not necessarily for the people who had played the game.
Yeah, and my counter argument to that though would be I think it thinks the audience is dumber than it is. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
have to
big time.
spell things out as much as this show spelled things out. In this episode, when Ellie explains to Dina that Abby's dad was the doctor that was killed, I was like, you have told this to the audience at least 4 or 5 times throughout
Yeah,
this season. This is we know, we
we
get
know.
it.
Yep.
Abby killed Joel because Joel killed her dad.
Yes.
We understand that now, but it's making sure, beating you over the head with it, that you
Yeah.
understand that. And I don't think it's necessary.
Did you know that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father?
And we're just going to make sure you know that. But it feels kind of like a lecture at times.
Hmm.
And this is a critique of Neil Druckmann's style in general, that the
Okay.
theme in The Last of Us 2, for example, the game was a little too on the nose. Oh, we get it. It's a cycle of revenge.
Hmm.
Abby killed, Joel killed Abby's dad, so Abby kills Joel's dad. Then
Yeah.
Ellie goes to kill Abby, and
Who's
all of
gonna
that.
break the wheel, or is the
Right.
wheel ever gonna get
But
broken?
right,
That
but
sort of
in the
thing.
show, they outright tell you that that's the theme. They
Yeah. Right.
explicitly say it out
Right.
loud, where
Yeah.
Ellie's
Yeah. Yeah.
like, you think you're a good person and you're better than me because you would do the same thing in my scenario. It's like we get that. We understand. We don't have to be told what the
Yeah.
themes of the show are over and over and over again. And I don't know whose decision this was. This feels like a Craig Mazin thing because I don't think Neil would have been that explicit because he's not as explicit in the game writing,
Hmm.
and it feels like maybe Craig with fresh eyes is like, well, this is how I read it. And then maybe Neil is saying, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's, because he's so attached to everything that he's not able to see from an audience perspective. And that's Craig's
Hmm.
perspective is when I was playing the game, this is how I viewed it. And so
Right.
putting some of that in there, I just don't think it worked. I think it was too obvious. All the subtlety of the game was reduced,
Yeah.
and when you do that, it just comes across as preachy.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest complaint with the season was that it it acted as if the audience was dumb.
Mhm.
And like it was the first season. I feel like it's a little easier to adapt than the
Yeah.
second, um, because it's more linear. The themes are a little easier to understand, maybe. And season one still really works, in my opinion. I think it's great.
Yep.
This one, it's a little bit more complex, and I think they kind of course corrected that a little bit too far in the opposite direction, um, to the point where it almost kind of felt like, I don't want to say satire, but it almost felt like that at times, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't feel as mature at
Right.
all.
Yep.
And we talked about the character of Ellie in our I think our last review, where they didn't really get to her rage and revenge story until the last couple episodes. The
Hmm.
first 3 or 4 episodes was still quippy
Hmm.
Ellie from season 1, and I guess
Yep.
the intent there was to transition her into this rage monster revenge thing.
But you don't ever really get it.
You don't really get it. Even in the scene in the aquarium where she eventually kills Owen and Mel,
Hmm.
it's not the same.
No.
She's not as driven. It feels like things are a little bit out of her control,
Hmm.
whereas in the game she was the driving force.
Oh yeah, she's a
And
force of nature in the game,
yeah,
and
I don't
is not in
know.
this.
I don't know if it just makes her weaker as a protagonist.
Hmm.
And you're not supposed to like Ellie in the game.
No.
That's the thing. You're doing all these things, and in an interactive medium, you're forced to do them.
Hmm.
And you're like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to do these things, but
Right.
I'm forced to do them. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the point. In this, it felt like they lost that aspect of interactivity and forcing the audience to do it. And so they're like, we don't know if you're going to connect with Ellie the same way. So they tone her down and
Hmm.
they make her a little bit more likable. But I think in doing that, it makes it come across more cheesy and less believable. It doesn't feel as earned. So
Yeah.
when she is going to this ending where she's beating the hell out of Nora, she's going for Abby, and it doesn't feel like that emotional transition really happened.
Hmm. I I have an issue with the way that Bella is directed when
Yeah.
she's delivering some of these scenes, because at the end of the day, the actor is doing what the director is telling them to do, right? And for example, in the scene in the aquarium where the stuff with Owen and Mel happens, the vocal inflection, it there's just something about it where
Yeah.
her voice goes higher
Mhm.
a lot.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to be mean and intimidating and aggressive, your voice needs to go down.
Yeah,
And it
and
needs to
we've
get
heard
like
her do
groveling,
it,
right? Exactly.
so
Yes.
she can do it. It's
But in
just
an
not.
important scene like that,
Yeah.
just it didn't feel like it had the same bite that
Yeah.
it has in the game. Uh, but I think that comes down to direction, because the
Mhm.
script is for the most part almost identical to the games. And I'm sure they did a bunch of takes every time, but the ones they used seem more like they're painting the picture of Ellie as a hero,
Mhm.
and less of Ellie as, the person who is literally stone cold revenge.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
But
how do you think the general audience is gonna react to that Seattle Day 1 reveal in the end?
I, I'm curious. I don't know, because when the scene in the theater happens where Jesse gets got which I thought was done really, really well.
Yeah.
Just like in the game, like real
Yep.
quick,
Mhm.
the best of us, right? The
They
guy with all
didn't
the
draw yeah,
morals.
they didn't draw it out and make it some dramatic thing. I
Yeah,
think that's the best part of that scene for
best
sure.
best choice. I thought it was going to end right there when
I
it
did
faded
too.
to black, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. That's like a great way to set up a cliffhanger. And then it did the Seattle day one bit. Um, I think it will lead to a lot of people scrambling to the internet to be like, what does this all mean?
Mhm.
Which, if you're here to see what it all means, like and subscribe. But I don't know, man. The other issue is that when you get that reveal in the game, if you want to, you just keep playing and you
Yeah.
find out what it means.
Yep.
Here, this is a hard stop for 2
Mhm.
years, maybe three. They haven't started production on season three of this show yet, so who the hell knows, man? I'm very very curious and concerned as to what it will all look like.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting for me with that reveal is will it make people want to watch season 3? Is that
Hmm.
a big enough cliffhanger for them to persist
Hmm.
into another season that's going to be at least 2 years from now,
Right?
probably?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer.
Me either.
I do think that season 3 is going to be mostly the Caitlin Deaver show,
Yeah, I think so.
with Bella in there partially, but it's gonna be mostly Abby,
Yeah,
I
I
would
think
think.
Catherine O'Hara said as much in an
Yeah,
interview or something
she
recently,
did,
which kind of
which
gave
I
things
think
away a little
was
bit.
meant to I don't think she was meant to say that.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
think
so
this
either.
was supposed to
But
be a big reveal that, "Hey, we're switching main characters in
yeah.
season 3, to get the Abby perspective," and we got hints at the Abby perspective. There's
Hmm.
certain things in this episode that were Easter eggs for game watchers that are events that happened in Abby's
Hmm.
scenes. I won't spoil them for season 3, but, they are coming, and I think they're
Yeah,
confirmed.
I
Uh
I'm concerned about the Stranger Things effect though, where like Jeffrey Wright is going to look the same, and
mhm,
Gabriel Luna is going to look the same, but Caitlin Deaver and Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced, young actors 2 years later, are going to
yeah,
look very different, and this is supposed to take place parallel. It's the same
yeah.
time, right? So I don't know.
See, this
Should be
is
interesting.
where I just wonder why did it have to be 7 episodes?
I don't
You
know.
couldn't have done 14 and or just did 12,
They did.
right? And that was fine. How many did The Pit just get?
I don't know.
I think The Pit got quite a few, which was also on HBO. The
Yeah.
Pit, I'm gonna Google it.
I think the Penguin had 10.
It was 15. The Pit
Wow.
had 15
Jeez.
episodes.
Okay.
So you could have pitched an adaptation where half the season is Ellie's perspective and half the season
Hmm.
is Abby's.
Yeah.
And that would have been just fine. But getting people to wait 2 years for the second half of that story is a tough sell.
Yeah. Well, and then factor in that Craig said they want to go a fourth season to finish the
I
story.
yeah.
When does the show end now?
Mhm.
If you take 2 years till season three, then another 2 years, you're looking at 2029.
Yeah.
And this show first premiered in what, 2023, I think.
Something like that.
So you're looking at 6 years to get through this two-part story. It's interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I I I don't have as much faith. Going into this season, I kept telling people who had not played the game after Joel died, "Don't worry, there's a really compelling story here that is going to happen, with
Made
Ellie
you look like a
after this,"
liar.
and that didn't quite occur. And so, that's the tough part is up until now, I had complete faith in the direction of the show, and
Hmm.
now I'm not so sure.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting too because there's another big budget video game adaptation that's happening right now, which is Fallout
Mhm,
over on Amazon. The first season of that premiered over the summer of last year.
mhm.
The second season premieres in December of this year.
Yeah.
Like they're boogieing and they're moving.
Mhm.
And I don't completely understand why with big budget television these days it takes 3 years to get where we're going. And I think that the
Yeah.
studios have started to notice that because like
Mhm.
uh, the Daredevil show that Marvel did, season one came out in March. They've already said season two is going to come out March of next year.
Yep.
They want it to be more like television and less like a movie. You know,
Yeah. I
So
think part of it is the cost of production. They don't wanna greenlight another season until they get the numbers in for the current season. But I think with some of this, you gotta take a leap of faith and
you
just
have to.
let
Yeah,
them take production on the next season. I think Silo, is actually shooting 3 and 4, seasons
they
3 and
did.
4 at the
Yeah.
same time.
Hmm.
Stuff like that should be happening. Then you
Yes.
can get all the post-production done on season 3, release that, and then
Hmm.
4 is already done, so then you can start post-production on that,
Right.
and then you get that out another year later. But yeah, Stranger Things is a great comparison because
Perfect example. Yeah.
we're like 15 years into the show.
These
It's like
kids
it
are old
never
enough to
ends.
drink now.
Yeah.
You know? But
But
Last of Us is not that extreme,
no, no, but
but yeah.
I do wonder if they do go 4 seasons with it, do you shoot 3 and 4 at the same time? You could.
I feel like you have to,
I feel like they should have shot 2 and 3 at the same time if they felt like splitting it.
if anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any danger of canceling the show, especially with that big of a cliffhanger on it. So
Yeah.
why not just shoot 2 and 3 at the same time? Maybe the production was just very difficult.
It maybe, but like when you cancel something mid story, it 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 creates a lot of bad faith takes from your
Yeah,
fandom. Like
yeah,
the Wheel of Time show on Amazon
yeah, it
just
just
got
got
canceled
canceled. Yep.
after 3 seasons.
Mhm.
They're not even halfway through that story,
Yeah.
and it's just going to be over, right?
Yep.
So it's like, it's a weird world, the world of streaming in Hollywood, especially because these aren't movies.
Mhm.
You're not going to make hundreds of millions of dollars back from one single property. That you're basically taking a loss on
Yeah.
every single one of these that you do, and you just hope that people subscribe and then forget to cancel.
Yeah.
Not the most solid business strategy out there. Uh but to get back on track, because we only got a couple minutes left here, what are your overall thoughts on the season, not just this finale?
Yeah, I thought this is actually a problem that a lot of people, including myself, had in season 1, which is the pacing was odd. They spent a lot of time on things I felt they maybe shouldn't have, and
Okay.
not enough time on things that I think they should have. Season
Got it.
1, that whole relationship with Ellie and Joel felt a little bit rushed. Part of it was because we took like a bottle episode with Bill and Frank,
Hmm.
which was a great episode on its own, but in terms of building that emotional core with Joel and Ellie was a pause.
Hmm.
Season 2, we spent like 3 episodes in Jackson, out of
Yeah.
the 7, and so the journey to get to Seattle in the game, it's a big portion of the story
Yeah,
is
it felt like no
Seattle.
time at all here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Seattle happened in, like, 2 episodes, 3 episodes. So we spent as much time in Jackson as we did in Seattle. We get the pause episode with Joel and Ellie last week, which
Hmm.
broke up that narrative too, and I
And then it's
feel
just
like
over.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and that actually was, I think, a detriment to the show as well. I liked that episode in isolation, but
Hmm.
going from that Nora scene to the aftermath of the Nora scene and breaking that up diminished the impact of that.
Hmm.
When when Dina is cleaning Ellie from all the stuff she just did,
Hmm.
my wife asked me, "What is that from again?" Because it was 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
last
Yep.
week was a completely different thing. It spaced that out, and
Yep.
so you lose that emotional impact of Ellie's reaction and everyone's reaction to what she did. So again, it's tough. I get it. It's a very long game. It was tough to adapt.
Hmm.
I don't think the pacing worked. I don't think Ellie's character arc worked. I don't think she was traumatized enough after what happened to Joel. I
Hmm.
think there were a lot of things that were set up that weren't completely paid off. The Catherine O'Hara character is a big one,
Hmm.
where they set up all she's a recurrent lie. Ellie's a liar. You got to watch out for that. That didn't really pay off.
Yeah.
Jesse was good, but again,
Yeah, very
starts in
good.
the beginning and then pause, and then we get him again, and then he's
And
gone.
then gone.
Uh, so, whereas in the game, you get a lot more Jesse. He's like your main companion throughout a lot of the story,
Hmm.
because Dina can't really do much because she's pregnant and sick and all of that stuff.
Yeah, like the whole boat chase scene was just not here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's wild. But
yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's not,
yeah,
but
I
I mean that's fine. But you lost a lot of Ellie's drive,
right.
and I think that's the biggest detriment of the season.
Yeah, I think it started out very strong,
Uh-huh.
And I think that the second episode, which has the big attack, had that HBO Game of
Mhm.
Thrones scale, and then the huge gut punch at the end with killing Joel. Really well done. I thought the flashback episode was really well done. But when you start piecing things together, all of those episodes feature a certain someone,
Yeah.
and you feel that certain someone when they're gone, and that's Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see now that he's gone, because
Mhm.
even the porch scene, right? We've blown through it. That's
Yeah.
over. There
Yep.
will be no more Joel
Yep.
between now and the end, unless they make something up.
Mhm.
Uh, it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think episode 3 was by far the worst of this season. The one after the Joel episode, where
Okay,
it's just them plotting to go to Seattle, and then they leave, and they arrive in Seattle.
yeah, and
That
it's
could
not
have
even
been
like it was bad performances. It was just like wasted time,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
spent a whole hour for something that should have taken about 15 minutes, and you could have
and then
spent more
show the
time.
journey to
Mhm.
Seattle instead of just like a montage of landscapes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You don't get Ellie's turn as much because of that episode specifically. I
right.
think that's where they wasted the most time.
Yeah, which they
Uh,
came back to a little bit in this one,
yeah,
where Jesse reveals that like he
yeah,
voted
the
Joe or
vote.
whatever. But
Okay.
I guess, yeah,
Yeah. So, overall, I'm pretty mixed on the season.
mixed bag. Yeah,
I
I don't
think
think it's a bad show by any means,
no, but,
right?
it's well below where it could be, and again, having played the games, we know the heights that it could get
Hmm.
to, and it's just
Yeah.
not there.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate. I'm interested for season 3 though, because in my opinion, the Abbey portion of the game was my favorite part of the
Very
game.
interesting. Yeah.
I loved the Abbey portion of the game. I thought there's big set pieces, there's a lot of stuff happening.
There's a little hint towards one of those set
Yeah,
pieces in tonight's episode
yes,
if you
there
have a
is,
keen eye.
which
So
they again front ran. They show Ellie go into the Seraphite Island. They show the explosions on Seraphite Island. So clearly there is a war going on Seraphite Island. I wonder if we'll
mhm.
see that in season 3, Corey. I wonder.
Maybe, maybe, or maybe that's season 4 coming 2029.
Yes. But I think season 3 will be pretty compelling. I love Caitlin Dever as an
Yeah,
actor.
great actor. Yeah.
I think she's awesome. So I'm interested to see her lead a show.
Hmm.
So excited for that. Hopefully, now that kind of the structural stuff is out of the way and all those
Hmm.
front ran reveals are out of the way, they can just play it a little bit more straight.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. We shall see. I think
Mhm.
that's the message here. So,
Yeah.
so that's going to wrap it up for this video. We would love to hear from all of you, whether you're a gamer or a non-gamer. What were your thoughts on this season as a whole? Drop us a comment below and let us know. We'll answer every single one that comes through. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Uh, TV's kind of done for the summer, but we're moving
Yeah.
into the summer movie
All
season.
movies.
So I was texting Shane about this earlier. We are really ramping up, man. Ballerina's coming out. There's a new Wes Anderson movie. Materialist is coming out. The Life of Chuck got a lot of great reviews out of TIFF last year. And then the big ones in July: Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four, the F1 movies coming out. There's a whole lot of stuff to be excited about. So be on the lookout for all of those and so much more. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.